talk to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the San Diego chapter of the American Marketing Association.
All right, welcome back to another episode of This Week in Marketing. I'm your host, Sam Wheeler, and in the studio we have Kevin Speck, my co-host, and today joining us we have Gina Greco, the Executive Director of the Portfolio Studio, and Yasmin Mesner. Did I pronounce that right?
You did.
Great. We're going to be talking about creativity and helping spark your marketing team's energy today. But before we do that, a couple quick announcements. Cause Conference is coming up very shortly, October 12th, 2018. It's a great way to find other purpose-driven marketers. It's early bird tickets, I believe, are finished, but if you go on the site, I think you can still buy them. Officially, they're done, but you can buy them still. Save $160, and it's going to be at the Town and Country Convention Center and Hotel Circle. October 12th. Save the date. All right, let's dive into the Portfolio Studio. Gina, I'll let you take this, kind of talk a little bit about it. What is it? How can we, how do you support the San Diego community? I guess it's a good question.
Well, Portfolio Masterclass actually started as Portfolio Studio in San Diego, and we started with like an on-ground program, and then moved it to an online program that's available all different hours for all different work schedules, 7 days a week online. And that was the sort of the focus on going to Masterclass from the actual studio that started out. And it's for professional development and portfolio building for creatives. So if you're a copywriter, an aspiring art director, or an art director, working art director, or a strategist, it's a way to continually, boost your creativity, get some new work in your portfolio, get re-energized in the industry, and work with professionals that are actually doing the job every single day.
Great. I love it. So how long? So you were, I totally apologize, you were Portfolio Studio and now you're Portfolio Masterclass.
Correct. Yeah.
So that is super exciting. Congratulations on the change.
Thanks.
So you have been working in the world of advertising for many years. What is your background in the world of advertising?
Well, I started in the agency world. So years ago, I had an ad agency, and we did, in those days, graphic design and advertising, primarily branding. And then I started working in education for many, many years, and I taught in all of those areas as well. And so Masterclass became the combination of those two things. It became that idea that I think education and business can connect in a way that really serves creatives and the advertising and marketing industries.
Cool. So this might sound like more of a basic question, but we're talking creative advertising today. Mm-hmm. Why is it so important to general business operations?
Well, I mean, there's people that say that there is no business without advertising. It's pretty critical, and there's really no advertising unless it's memorable and something that people walk away with and say, that somehow impacted me and influenced me. And the creativity is what gives that advertising that edge. It's what turns it from being just, words into something that somebody takes away and thinks, oh, I want that to connect with my life.
Okay, great. And Yasmin, this one's for you. How did you what about the world of advertising has inspired you to become part of Portfolio Masterclass?
Absolutely. So I started in local advertising production, and then I transitioned to film. And I really wanted to get back in touch with that creative process and be more involved with the ideation phase. So I found Portfolio Masterclass back when it was Portfolio Studio, and I took the on-ground classes with Gina and some of the other staff and just kept kind of developing my skills in that creative ideation space. So it was really exciting.
Cool. Yeah, great. So I think we already touched on this, but your experience led you to create, Gina, your experience led you to create Portfolio Masterclass. Have you seen the industry of advertising change since it started, or since you started in your career, and what kind of where do you see it going? I guess it's a huge loaded question there.
Yeah. Well, there, huge changes, right, in the ad industry, marketing industry, design industry. It's all gone under influx for years and years and years. But now I think we're seeing the most rapid change we've ever seen. So, we went from a place where I think brand advertising was the big thing, and the creatives would get together. You'd have an art director and a copywriter get together, and they would work, and they would create a campaign, and that would go through a lot of stages, and then eventually be pushed out into the media. But now it's just a rip roaring really fast. Let's see what we're doing. We've got all kinds of channels out there, just tons of ways to communicate, and a lot of different players that weren't even part of that process are now, key in making sure that your message is right and it's going to the right places, and you're talking to the right people, and it's just a huge change on what it used to be, and it's much harder now, I think, because it's so complicated.
So is it harder to make good advertising, or is it harder to just make advertising?
It's not very hard to make advertising, I don't think, because there is so many ways that you could just almost, open a Facebook, page and you just start running your ads. But it's always been important to make really good advertising, and that focuses around like a central message and making sure your brand is well positioned and that you're saying what you should be saying, and you're saying it in all the right channels, and you're saying it to the right people, and you're focusing on what you really want to communicate. And I think what happens is if the task becomes too easy, it's like we can throw anything out there and it just becomes this mess of what we used to call clutter, and now it's just clutter times 10,000. So.
Oh yeah, breaking through the noise.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that. So it's still really essential that you do good advertising instead of just sending like content out there. And it's worse and worse nowadays to sit around and it's become intrusive to the point where either people, that they hate when ads come on, and it should be that they invite you into their lives in a way that thinks, well, that's really, beneficial for me, and I'm enjoying this kind of thing.
Okay, cool. So, this kind of brings us to one of the topics that, one of the main topics today is this idea of creativity and inspiring your team, your marketing team, or the people that are building your advertising channels. We've heard people say, and actually we've had people come on the show too and say, well, I work in like an industry that's traditionally like boring. So we have to do this. We have to only send out newsletters, or we have to only send out our samples. That's the only way we can advertise. And what do you say about, teams that are working in these, quote, boring industries?
Yeah, I don't think there is any really boring industries. I think that there's just a lack of imagination within those boring industries. If you think back on, like, really great campaigns, big national campaigns that have showed up, they come from boring industries, or they come from what were boring industries. So if you think about the insurance industry, I mean, you can't really think of anything that's more boring than insurance. It's just super dull, and it's all paperwork, and you're talking to your agent, and there's nothing really exciting about it. And years ago, Geico came out with the caveman ads. And in that really boring space, they were able to do something that engaged a lot of people. And then all of a sudden, insurance wasn't boring anymore. Then it was Mayhem came out, and Flow came out, and all these different, campaigns came out. And it was all within this super boring industry with this super creative, ads.
Yeah, I think I saw one the other day where the guy was like chopping wood with his hands or something. It's weird. They've become super weird now, right? And there's a ton of basketball players that are in a bunch of insurance commercials now too. So I think it's really cool, especially, how you say the insurance is, quote, boring.
Yeah.
But now they've the commercials, they don't even really talk about insurance in them anymore, right?
They don't have to, because they're really trying to communicate on a level where they're having a conversation with you, and they want you to know about their brand and what they value, and they hope that it aligns with what you value. I mean, if you think about milk, I mean, Goodby did the Got Milk campaign, and when you hear about their background, they're like, okay, we had this, this white stuff that everybody's been drinking forever. It's in everybody's refrigerator. Nobody really ever thought about advertising it, and they were losing market share all the time. And they went in and said, how do we make this interesting? And they did Got Milk and a lot of campaigns around milk, and they turned out to be fantastically interesting campaign and increased, market share.
Nice. Cool. Are there any other industries, I guess, that may consider that were boring but now are fun in the advertising world?
Well, parody in general, parody is considered like all those like basic things that you have, toilet paper and paper towels and tape and, mattresses, things that everybody buys. There's not really a distinct group for it, and it's really hard to differentiate among the products. Like, this product isn't that much better than that product. But you've seen a lot of work within that space that ended up being really creative and very interesting, because I think that the creatives finally said, we can make this interesting. It doesn't, we don't have to be just selling white, paper. It's beyond that. So
definitely. All right, we're going to pick this up soon. Maybe talk about some student ads in the next segments. You are listening to WSRadio.com, the worldwide leader in internet talk, and this is This Week in Marketing from the San Diego American Marketing Association.
A podcast or radio show on WS Radio is a great way to create content marketing. Turn prospects into customers into raving fans. Contact Wade at WSRadio.com or call 866-WS-RADIO.
Hi, this is Rob Barnett, CEO and founder of VinVillage.com and the Wine and Dine Show on Vin Village Radio. Do you have a wine, event, product, or service to promote? Then contact VinVillage.com to reach thousands of wine lovers across the country. VinVillage connects like-minded wine enthusiasts with unique and exclusive wines, events, products, and services. To learn more, contact us on VinVillage.com. VinVillage is where wine lovers connect.
I raised $8,000 to build schools for South African children. After realizing how many people go hungry in San Diego, I now volunteer at a food pantry.
I'm spending the next year doing volunteer projects across 3 countries and helping in ways they designate to be the most helpful.
The World Link program at the Joan B. Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice recognizes the potential of youth as agents of social change. Learn how you can help youth become a generation of leaders in action at peace.sandiego.edu.
One person has the power to change the world, impact millions of lives, and leave a legacy for lifetimes to come. That person is you. In the New York Times bestseller, What is Your What?, Steve Olsher, award-winning author and founder of the Reinvention Workshop, reveals his proven process that has helped thousands of men and women discover, share, and monetize the one thing they were born to do. Grab your free copy now at www.whatisyourwhat.com/free. That's www.whatisyourwhat.com/free.
Take a break from politics. Tune in and learn something. WS Radio shows are worth your time and are filled with tips and advice. Add us to your lunch routine, and we'll give you a meal for your mind.
You take your smartphone almost everywhere you go. Now WSRadio.com can be there too. Search WS Radio in the Play Store for your Android devices or iTunes for Apple, and download the WS Radio application. WSRadio.com, on your phone and in your ear everywhere you go. Download the WS Radio application. Do it now. It's very easy. WSRadio.com.
Small businesses are the lifeblood of America's economy. Every Thursday, SBA Radio interviews industry professionals and is dedicated to provide small businesses with timely insights and innovations. Visit www.sbaradio.us for details.
Talk to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the San Diego chapter of the American Marketing Association.
All right, we're back. My name is Sam Wheeler. I'm the host of This Week in Marketing. With me in the studio, we have Kevin Sveck. We have Kevin. Haven't really said much today. Sorry about that. How's it going?
Good. How you doing, Sam?
Pretty good.
Good morning.
Good morning. We also have Gina Greco, the Executive Director of Portfolio Masterclass, and also in the studio, Yasmin Mesner.
Yes.
Great. Sorry about that. We're talking creativity in marketing teams and how to take a, quote, boring industry, which apparently we learned last segment, there is no boring industry, only a lack of imagination. And how do you take that and make good advertising rather than just adding to the noise that's out there? So we stopped last segment talking about different industries, and Gina, you were talking about anything that we buy on a daily basis.
Yeah, parody products, and how they, how that simplicity can still be translated to some really good ideas. You don't have to really look at the product as being the end all, like we just have to sell this thing. You can look at the people that you're selling to and then identify with them. I mean, I think a great example, it's not exactly parody, but it would be considered a really boring industry, is like train safety. Like the safety industry in general is pretty boring if you think about safety as being, it's not that exciting. It's, it's a bunch of dull signs. And if you got that brief on your desk that said, okay, create an ad campaign for train safety, you would immediately go to, like be safe on trains, watch out for, oncoming trains. It's a pretty dull path you could potentially go down. And yet there was a great campaign. I think it's probably one of the best campaigns in the last, 20 years that came out and for train safety. And on a really low budget, they created something really fun called Dumb Ways to Die. And it blossomed into, all kinds of channels. And it really impacted train safety. So
yeah, I think it was the whole cult following followed as well. I think we actually have that ad set up to play. I think Wade in the studio is going to rock that out for us when he's ready. So
set fire to your hair, poke a stick at a grizzly bear, eat medicine that's out of date, use your private parts as piranha bait. Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. Get your toast out with a fork, do your own electrical work, teach yourself how to fly, eat a 2-week-old unrefrigerated pie. Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die.
all right. Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah,
I love that. I don't know. I feel like I've seen that video so many times across so many, and there people started making parodies of it, of parodies of that parody, I guess, right?
yeah, it went completely viral from, like a small studio playing guitar and, like a song to a huge ad campaign.
I love it. So, obviously this is an example of something that was amazing, right? Now, I think it might be a little bit of a tall order if I'm a marketing director or a marketing manager to say, all right, team, I need you to make something amazing every single time for the rest of your career. So that's kind of what I want to get in today. What are some of the big takeaways from these campaigns for small businesses, small to medium-sized businesses? They don't have a huge budget. how can they do something that is impactful without, wasting away their budget?
Yeah, I don't think you need huge budgets to do a really great job in advertising. You need a good strategy, to understand your market really well. And then you need to really pare it down to the one idea, like one really great idea that you have, and work around it, test it, check it the same way you would with any kind of, you're able to do a lot of that now with marketing. And then continue to refine that idea till it really, it really impacts people. It becomes part of your brand, and when it's really well thought out, it becomes something that you can then expand upon. It's kind of stripping everything down to real simplicity and then expanding back up. I think everybody tries to do too much at once. They try to do too many messages. They try to say too much about their product. And if you really can find that insight, that one thing that you connect with, you can do that affordably.
Okay, so I think we're going to play a student ad when we're right in the studio. The mattress or the cooler one, I'm not sure. We'll play one of them first and talk about it. But before it starts, when you talk about this idea, right, is it the simplest idea about the product, the simplest idea about your company culture? What kind of, is there a direction to take?
There's a whole bunch of different ways that you can go. They're like paths. So you could take the simplest idea about the product itself, which I think is a real traditional approach. You also could find an insight, like a perception about your audience, and jump onto that.
We call that the human truth.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. If you can find that, then you can focus on that thing and then expand on that. And then everybody kind of connects with that, right?
Cool. All right, let's listen to one of the Portfolio Masterclass student ads.
Okay, everyone, let's get status on this week's started meeting. Oh, I need an update on the Johnson account, but make it busy. I'm a short man. Now, this account takes top priority. We need to put Ted's together and... Rainstorm new strategies for a strategic multi-efferent approach. Now, no barking around the bush here. I want all our ducks on the same page. Oh, the popcorn is ready. Off right. Great meeting, Mary One. Let's leverage our practices. Really synergize on this one. We'll report back next week. Simon, Ryan, Brian, you! I'll paint the dog and meet you on the train tracks.
Losing your mind after a bad night's sleep? Try Purple Mattress and say hello to good night. Starting at www.onpurple.com.
All right, I love that one. Purple Mattress. All right, so let's kind of break down this student ad here. What was I guess we can all probably figure out the idea, but can you kind of talk us through why they didn't say the word mattress once in the entire ad, right?
Yeah, I think what Kevin was just saying, it went to the human truth of you don't get a good night's sleep, and then you wake up and your whole day is messed up. And so Randy Cantrell looked and found that human truth, and then just through the art of copywriting, expanded that idea out, and it was just created in a radio studio very quickly on a really low budget. I mean, if a student can do that, a marketing team can do that, and you can then, if you know that center core idea of that exhaustion, you can then bring that into print and social and all those other things. It becomes a really natural sort of expansion, and you can, you could run a social campaign on, all of those exhausting things that happen to you, sort of those mistakes during the day when you don't get a good night's sleep. So it has what we call legs in the industry, and that's what we look for in those.
Okay, so when you're building this, coming up with this central idea or the truth, so in this case it was, if you have a bad night's sleep, you're going to stink at work or whatever, right? Do you build the writing around a specific medium first, or do you come up with the idea and then layer it onto the different touch points that you have with the customer?
Occasionally you got the media already defined because they've already purchased the media in an agency or at a business. And sometimes you let the messaging decide where the media is going to go. So it's not necessarily fixed one way or another, but sometimes I would say it's more typical that you're writing for a particular media you're used to, but it could go the other way. And especially if you have a really good idea and you have a good team, your team then gets together and brainstorms and says, I have a great idea to go, like what if we go social with this and or what if we do some kind of, an outdoor event that's connected to that. And that way it just keeps expanding back out with the ideas of your whole staff.
Okay, cool. And that kind of brings me to the next kind of thing that I want to talk about. Before we get into the different touch points, I want to talk about the team itself, right? Can I take my paid media manager and say, all right, Susan writes the best commercial ever? Like, what do I need to do if I'm a marketing manager to build out a team? We only have 1 minute, but we can touch on this in the third segment as well.
Okay. I think it's tough to have one person do everything. Like you don't really have a jack of all trades that can do all different things, but you can certainly, bring together enough people, freelancers and your own staff with some direction. And I think through collaboration, work out and create some of the pieces that you would need and sort of emphasize the strengths of the people that you're working with. So,
okay, so it's on the in-house team to find the right out-house team, I guess, to work with, or how would you recommend that?
Oh, yeah, I think there's a lot of sources now for freelancing, and there's a lot of writers who work from home, and you can, look at their portfolios and their work and hire them independently. Even on really small budgets, you can get some pretty talented work.
Okay, cool. I love that. So we're going to take a break here, and we will be back shortly. You're listening to WSRadio.com, the worldwide leader in Internet talk. And this is This Week in Marketing from the American Marketing Association's San Diego chapter. Thank you.
Securing Our eCity Foundation is a nonprofit organization focused on cybersecurity awareness and education. Formed in 2011, their mission is to enable every San Diegan to live, work, and play safely in the cyber world. For more information, visit securingourecity.org or call 619-630-2444. Securingourecity.org, 619-630-2444. Securingourecity.org.
Tired of presentations with no impact, no inspiration, and no traction? Do dull speakers have you and your team disengaged and distracted by smartphones? Christopher McAuliffe brings energy, insights, and 2 decades of experience, delivered with punch, humor, and heart. Your team will leave energized, uplifted, and with a sense of purpose. Visit ChristopherMcAuliffe.com to bring some heat to your next speaking engagement. McAuliffe. ChristopherMcAuliffe.com.
Take a break from politics. Tune in and learn something. WS Radio shows are worth your time and are filled with tips and advice. Add us to your lunch routine, and we'll give you a meal for your mind.
Kenja Dixon was crowned the #1 sales executive through hard work, deep thinking, and the revelation of Universal Talk Laws. He now wants to share these lessons with you. Universal Talk Laws are what you need to know and use in business and at home to have successful and effective conversations. Kenja Dixon shares his wisdom, action plans, and wealth. Each book comes with a chance to win $10,000. Find Universal Talk Laws at KenjaDixon.com.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813. 548-6813.
Small businesses are the lifeblood of America's economy. Every Thursday, SBA Radio interviews industry professionals and is dedicated to provide small businesses with timely insights and innovations. Visit www.sbaradio.us for details.
Talk to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the San Diego chapter of the American Marketing Association.
All right, welcome back. Welcome to segment 3. We're talking to Gina Greco of Portfolio Masterclass and Yasmin Mesner as well. Welcome back, guys. I'm really excited. We had a great segment 2. We're going to kind of just pick it up and roll with it still. We're talking about creative teams, and I know Kevin wanted to jump in with a question here. So, Kevin, why don't you take that away?
Yeah, so jumping right back in, when it comes to advertising, there's so many different roles and creative minds that factor in. You know, you have your visual thinkers, your wordsmiths. In the case of an a radio spot, you might need someone to coordinate the music. And then there's the creative director who really just coordinates it all together. What are some of the best strategies that creative directors use for just like harnessing all these creative minds to just come up with a really good execution?
You start, whenever you're doing this, you start with you start with a brief, that center kind of thing where everybody jumps on the same page. If you don't have that, then you have a lot of diverse thinking. But if you can even very simply put down your information in a brief form, so it says things like, who is specifically our target market? Who are we talking to? And it says, what is the main message we want to communicate? Those kinds of things. It could be 5 questions that are answered really clearly, and you make sure that everybody on the creative has that and continually refers to that as they go back with their creative executions. Then they were able to, sort of double check, am I still doing that? Am I, are we still going on the same path altogether? And that way you sort of take all these multitude of talents and you sort of harmonize them so that they all are sort of working with their strengths, but, going toward the same goal at the end.
So to go off the brief, I know it's sometimes a challenge to have just a really solid brief for both your team and then the clients on the client side. In some cases, maybe the client will work with you on the brief and then you guys come up with the execution and the client's like, oh, this is not what I had in mind. What are some strategies to make sure that brief is just crystal clear on both sides before any work's even started?
Yeah, you're really saying something I think that's important because, first of all, creating the brief it seems like it's a very simple task, but it really takes some deep thinking to make sure your brief is on track and it is hitting the different areas that you want to. And then you need to be in constant communication with your client to make sure that they also are giving you the nod. Yep, this sounds right. And those are the early questions that you ask. The creativity can expand out of that, but you have to have that core understanding and communication going back and forth to make sure that everybody knows what we're doing. And I think one of the big things that tends to go way off track is when people sort of leave that path. They don't spend the time communicating and they don't narrow that brief down to really distilled information. All of a sudden you just have this sort of chaotic campaign or work that doesn't sort of gel back to the place you want to be.
How many times, Gina, have you seen when you're conducting a creative brief, and you're talking to the client and you say, what is your target market? And the client says, everybody.
Yeah.
I want to reach out to everybody. My product can help everybody. And I think a lot of clients want to focus on the features of their product when I think really great advertising comes from identifying that need from their target market and that human insight, and then kind of addressing how the product solves that need.
So just to touch on some recent news, as most people have heard, Apple just became the first trillion-dollar company in human history. I think a big part of that was the way they advertised, going back to advertising to everyone. They something that I noticed about Apple in their advertising, they like to advertise that technology isn't as complicated as many people think. And in all their ads, it made super user-friendly. They didn't use any fancy lingo like gigahertz, megahertz, anything like that. They just made it to everyone, which I thought was one of the most interesting advertising things of the past couple decades, in my opinion.
Well, you're right. Their message, and the fact that you can even identify their message in one line shows that they've done a really good job at their message, because they could have said a million things about Apple products, right? Mm-hmm. But you're able to say, here's the one thing, and it's further identified by that really simplicity of their logo. This apple with one bite out of it. It's just this really, here's what we are. Even though they had that same, advertised to everybody, all of their channels advertise slightly different messages depending on the group. So they have an education message to all their students, and they have a different message to their business users and their home users. And so they take that very core idea that you're talking about, which is this idea that technology is simple and friendly, and then they channel it to different markets, saying that basically the same message, but just modifying it enough so that it fits the needs of each of those consumers.
Okay, cool. I love that segue into this idea of the diverse world of advertising, right? So we have our message, right? We say we got this brief down. We want to target all these unique selling propositions, but we need to have some sort of idea. So let's say we have our idea. How do we go about choosing what channel to put this idea into? It goes into all of them, or do we have one idea for email? Do we have another whole separate campaign for traditional media? Do we have a Twitter campaign that follows the same concepts? What would you say to somebody who's asking that sort of question, I guess?
Generally, campaigns are campaigns because they connect together with the thread of an idea. So you usually don't go out into different channels, although, you see it all the time. You don't go out into different channels with different messaging. You have one, but you modify that message enough so that it fits the media that you connect it with. And again, if you have a simple enough concept like the Apple one that Kevin mentioned, you're able to sort of bring that into other media in a way that I think could work with them. So if you were going into social, it's a conversation, right? People can communicate back. It goes back and forth. And if you want to do something that's about simplicity and technology, you make that social conversation really easy and fun at the other end. If you're going into print, it could be something very distilled down and very straightforward. If you're going direct mail, you still have that message underlying it, but it has a different purpose when it goes out.
Going back to the mattress commercial we just heard earlier from the student, it's really interesting because if you thought about transferring that message to a Twitter campaign, you could easily do that. It's not going to be as long, right? It's not going to be extended, but it would be just a short blurb of 10 words, maybe mix up some letters so it's dyslexic, and there you have the same concept. That person clearly didn't have enough rest.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And how do you bring imagery into the different channels as well, right? So in the mattress example, you've got this radio spot, right? And if your client or the manager says, all right, we need this to go into our email campaign to like 1 million people, how do you transfer that into a visual way?
Yeah, that's a little more challenging just right
trickier.
Off the bat. I think you could play with maybe mismatching wardrobe, like they put their shirt on backwards or inside out, something like that. And that's just right off the bat. I mean, we could do some deeper brainstorming.
That's right, because you really wouldn't focus. I think the traditional thing would be like, I'm going to show a picture of the mattress, right? That would be like where I think a lot of companies would go. But, mattresses just look like mattresses. I mean, we really don't look at them and go, wow, that one is nicer than this one. Again, we're talking sort of these similar products, and maybe you do have a cross-section or you have a little cutout. But the concept, the main part of the ad that's supposed to bring people in, like Yasmin says, needs to somehow connect back to that chaotic world that you have when you don't get enough sleep.
And, you could easily do a picture of somebody yawning, but that's going to add to the noise because that's been done so many times. Maybe that was a breakthrough, 50 years ago when it first came out. But now, just the other day I saw a mom at a coffee shop with her shirt inside out and the tag was out, on the front, and she had her baby. It was just such a perfect, she didn't look tired. She was full, ready to go. But just that little detail just tells you everything you need to know about her life.
Definitely. So this is kind of getting into the next really good question. We have about 2 minutes here. Has everything been done, right? Can we still make breakthroughs? What are some of the biggest challenges that companies are facing right now in the advertising and creativity world?
Well, I always hear that everything's been done. You hear that a ton from, students that come in. They've I've seen it. It's been done. And then there's a breakthrough campaign and everybody goes, oh, it's a miracle. It's brand new. So it's really rethinking, again, that human truth and then identifying it for the time that you're in. And if you can do that and move it through, then you can continue to have this energized and new ideas because people have changed over time. And if you just identify into, cultural differences that have changed and pop, how the world's evolving, but go back to the human truths that we all share and do that in a really fun way. Companies face so many challenges right now. How do you because of clutter, how do you make a brand stand out? How do you stay consistent across channels? How do you find expertise in all these different areas? How do you stay relevant? A brand manager has a huge job, and a creative who's smart has to, think about the business side as well as the creative side, and then still make that work. So, it's a big world right now out there in advertising.
Yeah, I saw an interesting stat the other day. On average, Americans are exposed to anywhere from 4,000 to 10,000 pieces of brand messaging a day, whether they realize it or not. So really cutting through the noise is a lot harder now than it has ever been.
Absolutely.
Now, I guess we can talk about this in the beginning of the Pour segment, but do you test these out before you have a whole campaign around it? And I think that's going to bring us to the segment here, but we'll talk about testing, and we're going to do a little brainstorming for the AMA as well in the last segment here. So you're listening to WSRadio.com, the worldwide leader in internet talk, and this is This Week in Marketing. We'll see you soon.
You take your smartphone almost everywhere you go. Now WSRadio.com can be there too. Search WS Radio in the Play Store for your Android devices or iTunes for Apple and download the WS Radio application. WSRadio.com on your phone and in your ear everywhere you go. Download the WS Radio application. Do it now. It's very easy. WSRadio.com.
On the internet, your business's reputation can be unjustly destroyed in an instant. Don't wait for that to happen. Building and marketing your 5-star reputation can increase your business by as much as 19%. Take control of your reputation and have the 5-star reputation you deserve with Reputation Marketing Solutions by DSI Development. Become the go-to company by visiting 5starrepmarketing.com. The number 5starrepmarketing.com.
Nowadays, internet devices are an integral part of your home. Everyone in your family has a smartphone, tablet, or a computer. Life is easier knowing that all your devices are secured and your family can surf the internet carefree. ESET Multi-Device Security Pack does just that. One license for all your devices. With ESET, it's simple to stay protected and save money. Enjoy safer technology with ESET Multi-Device Security Pack at ESET.com. That's ESET.com.
You may have heard me brag about Progressive Medical Center and just how much they've helped me with my health. And Dr. Goli, one thing that you have helped so many people with is migraines.
Unfortunately, there are millions and millions of Americans who are suffering with migraines and headaches, and they're debilitating because it affects the quality of their life, and they cannot function properly. At Progressive, we get to the root cause because we understand that migraines could be caused by nutritional deficiencies, hormonal imbalances, believe it or not, delayed food sensitivities. And once we determine what the real reason is, we put a plan of action together with medication that we get them off slowly, and we put them on an all-natural approach, and the results are amazing.
Incredible. I mean, there's so many people that can say they don't live their lives with migraines anymore thanks to Progressive Medical Center.
And that's what's exciting and rewarding to us as physicians, because we help our patients take control of their health, and that's why they're living well.
Why don't you get a hold of Progressive Medical Center today? Don't live in pain. Don't have migraines anymore. Just go to their website, progressivemedicalcenter.com.
This is your life. Live it well.
Did you know the majority of radio listeners are between the ages of 35 and 54, have a household income of more than $100,000, are classified as executives or professionals, and share the show they listen to? Become part of the Peggy Smedley Show to reach listeners looking for information on connected devices through cost-effective radio commercials or segment sponsorships. Contact us at 630-933-0844 for more information or visit PeggySmedleyShow.com.
Talk to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the San Diego chapter of the American Marketing Association.
All right, welcome back to This Week in Marketing. I'm your host, Sam Wheeler. We've got Kevin Speck in the studio, and we're talking with Gina Greco, the Executive Director of Portfolio Masterclass, and Yasmin Mesner. We're talking about creativity. How do you take your brand and do awesome stuff all the time, every time, pretty much. So that is the challenge. We talked about challenges in the last segment, and we talked a little bit about testing before the break, and I wanted to kind of jump back into that before we do some brainstorming here. And how do you test, or should you test, or should I create, I'm the marketing manager, should I create every piece of writing and imagery for every channel that I want to use before I even do a piece of testing?
Yeah, that'd be no, because we now have the ability to do testing, so let's use it. And you're able to see what resonates earlier, but you also have to be careful that you don't kill an idea so early by testing, especially in testing in the wrong way, that you're getting feedback that actually isn't working. So there's a little bit of risk taking you have to make. And a little chance you have to take, but I think that getting feedback on one channel or maybe a couple channels, especially ones that don't cost a lot, and see if that's sort of working, and then expanding out is a great idea.
Okay, what do you look for in the feedback? Anything particular? I mean, obviously you want good feedback, right? But is there anything that people wouldn't normally look for that we should?
I think you need to do a little bit of talking to people. Some qualitative feedback, I think, is really important. You can get, like views, but you don't really know what the actual impact is. And so I think reaching out and actually talking to people and hearing what they're saying and how the work is connecting is important.
Okay, cool. Yeah, qualitative research is very important. And it's sometimes tough to get companies to actually shell out the money for it, which is really interesting. Okay, cool. So we are going to talk a little bit about brainstorming exercise that marketing teams could do in-house with their teams to get ready to create something for any type of channel. But before we do that, I wanted to kind of touch base. We've talked about most of the stuff already, but what should the teams do before? Like, what should they have prepared before they start brainstorming their message or their idea or that type of stuff?
Well, there's the things we sort of touched on a little bit, but as part of the creative process, you start by understanding a brief. Everybody getting clear on the same page, working with the client, everybody saying, narrowing it down. It doesn't necessarily have the idea on the brief already, but it has some key points that you need to follow, and then make sure you did your creative research. You've looked around, you understand your target market, you understand the features and benefits of whatever you're selling. Maybe you look at your background history, or you look forward. You talk to people. And once you've got all that done, sort of that's incubating away, then you can start trying to find that insight, that one thing that you think is going to resonate with people. And it could be from a perception, or it could be an interesting behavior, something that is this sort of kernel of, this could be an idea. And when you have that, possibly then you work around it. So if you think about like campaigns like, the Old Spice ad, they could have gone off a lot of different things, right? They could have gone off the history or the ocean, or it could have been about, used by men for generations, but they went off manly scent and built a whole campaign around that. It's the same thing. Can we figure out sort of what we think is going to resonate, and then sort of brainstorm off of that?
Okay, cool. That's a good segment into brainstorming. You talked about, or we have three different types of brainstorming that we can maybe quickly touch upon for teams to leverage, and then maybe with the last 5 minutes or so we could jump in and you guys could show us how it's done.
Sure. So we teach a lot of different brainstorming techniques. There's probably 15 to 20 brainstorming techniques we teach at Portfolio Masterclass. But some of the really key basic ones, some of my favorites, idea mapping, where you visually organize information around a central idea, and you sort of make these, clusters out. So you write words in the center, and then you sort of write words extending out. Or emulating, which everybody thinks is, like you don't do that, but you really should. You look at other work. You look at other really great work, and you think, can that be connected to me somehow? Probably something from a different industry. You say, okay, Oreo did this amazing thing, and, I'm selling shoes. So how do I make that connection? Maybe there's probably something in the thing that they did that will then connect. So emulating, which is not stealing the idea, but it's borrowing sort of the way they're doing the idea, is a really good one. And then we play something called the What If game, which is this very fun game that opens up your brain, and children do it all the time. And as adults, we tend to be less creative. We tend to already edit our ideas, and the What If game forces you out of that.
Okay, cool. I love this idea of the What If game. We got a few minutes left. Do you guys want to kind of show our listeners how to do the What If game?
Sure, you join in with us too. I think Yasmin picked a client.
Yeah, so we'll just do, a kind of a smaller deodorant company that not many people are familiar with. It's natural deodorant called Meow Meow Tweet. It's a weird name. But we're just going to go with deodorant and then see what ideas come about.
Yeah.
So I'll start, and then you guys can jump in. What if deodorant was stimulated by the smell of humans?
What if deodorant was growing flowers?
What if deodorant was edible?
That's a cool one. What if deodorant could prevent cancer?
What if deodorant sang?
What if deodorant was religious and the underarms were paradise?
And then, so there's an interesting thing that she did. She went from like deodorant to underarms, because you can actually talk about underarms as part of this. So what if every time you lifted up your underarm, there was a choir?
Love that. So obviously somebody should probably be writing a lot of this stuff down at some point.
Right.
And then do you answer the questions as a team too? Or?
You do. You look at one of the answers that you have. You look at one of those brainstorming things. So, and maybe the more absurd ones, and you start thinking, can any of that translate to an ad? Can this thing actually become an ad? And so hopefully you have a list of 100 different things. And you can get your children involved in this. You can get people that are not creative, right? Not in the creative department involved. And you just brainstorm around a big table or in a room, and everybody shoots out ideas. And then the creative team can then look at all those ideas and say, oh, you know what? I have 5 or 6 that I really like. Can we build an ad campaign off of any of these? And then, they'll come up with some sketches and idea, go back to the group, and then talk through it. And then possibly, maybe 2 or 3 will be the directions that you can then test out and see how they work.
I love that. That's amazing. Cool. So, we have got a couple minutes left here. I wanted to talk about local clients that you've worked with, or local companies in San Diego that are just crushing it from a standpoint of a, good visual marketing, or anything that stands out in your studies or anything like that. I'm kind of putting you on the spot there, but
yeah. Well, there's some, tried and true. Petco has always done a great job. Jack in the Box, I mean, they've always done, great advertising, and then it's surprising advertising, I think, that can come from places that are really small companies too, that they'll sort of push the envelope a little bit in ways, especially some of the breweries around San Diego. They're doing some very fun things in social and other things that you wouldn't, typically, expect from the big companies who have tons of budgets. So they have to do some, things on a limited scale.
Definitely, and we'll put some good examples in the write-up too for the users or listeners to check out. And before we go here, can companies work with Portfolio Masterclass?
Yeah, we're especially relevant for professional training. So if you have people that need to expand their work, get creatively inspired, we're a perfect choice for that.
Amazing. All right, thank you so much, Gina and Yasmin. We'll see you guys soon. Hopefully we can get you in the studio again. This is This Week in Marketing from American Marketing Association San Diego.
Thanks.
Have a good day.
Thanks for having us.
Securing Our eCity Foundation is a nonprofit organization focused on cybersecurity awareness and education. Formed in 2011, their mission is to enable every San Diegan to live, work, and play safely in the cyber world. For more information, visit securingourecity.org or call 619-630-2444. Securingourecity.org, 619-630-2444. Securingourecity.org.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
Tired of presentations with no impact, no inspiration, and no traction? Do dull speakers have you and your team disengaged and distracted by smartphones? Christopher McAuliffe brings energy, insights, and 2 decades of experience, delivered with punch, humor, and heart. Your team will leave energized, uplifted, and with a sense of purpose. Visit ChristopherMcAuliffe.com to bring some heat to your next speaking engagement. McAuliffe. ChristopherMcAuliffe.com.
Looking to be a successful entrepreneur? The virtual assistant industry continues to be a top choice for those looking to start their own business. The problem can be how to become a virtual assistant. Many turn to the Bible of the VA industry, the book Virtual Assistant the Series, and it's the perfect guide for office managers, executive assistants, and other administrative professionals looking to make the transition from employee to successful business owner. Go to vatheseries.com to get your copy today.
Hi, Scale listener. This is David Finkel, co-host with Jeff Hoffman of Scale Your Business. I wanted to let you know that our newest book, Scale, was just released, and to encourage you to get your copy. The book will give you 7 proven principles to grow your business and get your life back. Scale will help you work less by getting your business to produce more. Get your copy online or at your local bookseller. For more information, visit us online at scaleyourbusinesstoolkit.com.